The glossy tile floors of Grayson Dynamics executive level reflected the cold fluorescent lights above. No one noticed the woman pushing a mop across the hallway. No greetings, no questions, but what they didn't know was that the woman in the plain uniform, quietly cleaning after hours, held the power to change the fate of the entire company. Celeste Grayson, 28, only daughter of tech billionaire Nathaniel Grayson, had just crossed a turning point. After her father suffered a near-fatal heart attack, the topic of succession was no longer hypothetical. Nathaniel, a self-made black entrepreneur who built Grayson Dynamics from his garage into a multi-billion-dollar tech empire, now needed to pass the torch. Celeste, a Harvard MBA, seasoned executive, and the heir apparent, was the obvious choice, but Nathaniel had concerns. "You've never seen this company from the bottom," he told her one quiet evening, his voice heavy with wisdom. "You don't understand what really happens down there, how people without titles are treated." That conversation led to a bold decision. For 2 weeks, Celeste would go undercover as a night shift janitor, under the alias Nina, placed through a third-party vendor so no one in the company could trace her true identity. Her designer wardrobe was replaced with worn-out clothes, her signature glasses swapped for plain frames. She tied back her natural curls with a simple scarf and removed every symbol of status she once carried. She became invisible. From keynote speaker to silent cleaner, Celeste entered her father's headquarters each night not as the future CEO, but as someone entirely forgettable. And in that anonymity, she began to see something she never could from her executive office: the hidden face of Grayson Dynamics. No one looked her in the eye. Executives brushed past her cart. Conversations about sensitive projects continued openly, as if she wasn't even there. And slowly, she started to witness something troubling: a deep culture of disrespect, neglect, and unchecked abuse festering behind the polished corporate brand her father had spent decades building. She didn't yet know that within days, she would no longer be mopping those floors quietly, she would be standing in front of the boardroom, exposing every lie with undeniable proof, and watching as those who once humiliated her were escorted out in shame. By the end of her first night, Celeste's hands were red and sore. Her arms ached from scrubbing bathroom tiles, and her back throbbed from bending and mopping. She had once given TED Talks on sustainable tech and closed million-dollar deals in boardrooms, but none of that prepared her for the physical and emotional weight of being ignored, dismissed, and walked through like she was part of the furniture. No one recognized her, and even if they had looked, they wouldn't have truly seen her. What began as discomfort quickly turned to disgust. Executives stepped around her cart without a word. Some even bumped into her and didn't bother to apologize. She wasn't Celeste Grayson anymore. She was Nina, the invisible cleaner. And then came Harold Dixon. Harold was the operations director on the 40th floor, a man known to the executive team as efficient, results-driven, and disciplined. But to the janitorial crew, he was something else entirely. He was feared. On Nina's second night, Harold conducted a surprise inspection of the third-floor executive wing. He walked with a clipboard, checking for dust in places no human eye would ever see. "This is unacceptable," he said, holding up a glove with a faint smudge from the top of a light fixture. "Do you people not understand what excellence looks like?" The entire wing was ordered to be re-cleaned, 2 hours of extra work, unpaid. But Harold seemed to take a special interest in Nina. Maybe because she was new. Maybe because she still carried herself with traces of the confidence she'd spent years refining in boardrooms. Or maybe it was because he needed someone to break. Whatever the reason, Harold made Nina his personal target. He criticized her cleaning method, her posture, the way she pushed her cart. During a restroom inspection, he asked, "Are you deliberately this incompetent or just naturally gifted at wasting my time?" He chuckled to himself, clearly enjoying the power imbalance. Celeste gritted her teeth. She wanted to scream, to remind him of who she really was, to end his career with a single phone call. But she didn't, not yet. That wasn't the mission. She was here to witness, to document, to understand. Then came Thursday night. She had just finished mopping a long stretch of marble hallway outside the executive boardroom. It gleamed under the ceiling lights, spotless, pristine. That's when Harold appeared. His leather shoes echoed ominously across the floor. He stopped next to her cart. For a moment, He said nothing. Then, as if casually stretching, he swung his arm wide and knocked the entire cart to the ground. Cleaning bottles clattered. Mop handles fell. Rags scattered across the freshly cleaned floor. And Harold? He didn't even blink. He stepped through the spilled solution, leaving dirty footprints behind him. He didn't apologize. Didn't even glance back. Celeste stood frozen. It wasn't just rudeness. It wasn't even just cruelty. It was deliberate, calculated, an abuse of power from someone who knew he'd never face consequences, because people like Nina didn't have power. Didn't have a voice. But Harold was wrong. Celeste did have power. Just not yet. She dropped to her knees, fighting tears, and began cleaning the mess, again. Her clothes soaked in the cleaning solution. Her hands trembling with frustration and fury. And as she scrubbed the footprints he left behind, she made herself a silent promise. Harold Dixon would never treat another employee like this again. This wasn't just undercover work anymore. This was a mission for justice. By the start of her second week, Celeste had grown used to the physical strain. Blisters turned into calluses. Sore muscles adapted to the rhythm of cleaning. But nothing could prepare her for the psychological toll of being constantly belittled, disrespected, and rendered invisible. She kept a notebook hidden inside her cart. Every insult, every moment of humiliation, every time someone looked through her like she wasn't human, it was all recorded. Time, date, location, witnesses. She had even planted a small camera beneath the cleaning supplies, capturing audio and video evidence from hallways and offices. And that evidence was piling up fast. Harold Dixon's cruelty had escalated. Now, he wasn't just ignoring her, he was targeting her. Deliberately walking through freshly mopped floors, ordering her to re-clean already spotless areas, accusing her of being slow, sloppy, and incompetent in front of others. One night, when she tried to speak up, he poured an entire cup of cold water over her head. It soaked her uniform, her hair, and her dignity. Now you have something real to clean up, he sneered, dropping the empty cup at her feet like trash. She stood there drenched, trembling, holding back tears, not because of the water, but because she could see the smirk on his face. He was enjoying it. That night, as Celeste wrung out her clothes in the employee restroom, she looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. But she wasn't done. Not yet. She kept going. Then came Derek Simmons, the marketing director, a man who wore creative genius like a tailored blazer. Smooth talking, stylish, and supposedly progressive. But when Nina entered his office on her assigned cleaning rotation, she found a different Derek than the one featured in company campaigns. "Oh good, you're here," he said, without looking up. "This office is a disaster." Celeste glanced around. A few coffee cups, some paper stacks, nothing unusual. Still, she nodded and got to work. But as she moved through the room, Derek hovered, criticizing her every motion. "You're leaving streaks. That's not how you clean glass. Did no one train you?" He made her re-clean the same surfaces 3 times. Then 4. Then 5. Each time she thought he was done, he found a new problem: invisible lint, imaginary smudges, a scent he didn't like. It was a game to him, a performance. He would smile faintly as she obeyed, then make her start again. Celeste finished 3 hours late that night. But it was nothing compared to what happened next. The breaking point didn't come from Derek or Harold. It came from Vanessa Lowell, the company's legendary SVP of sales, a woman known for closing deals that shaped Grayson Dynamics' future. Celeste was assigned to clean the 38th floor boardroom. The room was empty according to the schedule. But when she walked in, Vanessa was mid-meeting with her sales team. "I'm sorry," Celeste said gently. "I didn't mean to interrupt. I'll come back later." But Vanessa turned, her eyes blazing. "Where do you think you're going?" "I'll wait until your meeting is finished." "That's not how this works," Vanessa snapped. "Do I need to explain basic courtesy to someone who cleans toilets for a living?" The room fell silent. Junior employees stared at their laptops, pretending not to hear. Celeste froze. She had taken verbal abuse for a week straight. She had been drenched in cleaning solution, ignored, mocked, but this felt different. Still, she remained composed. "Ma'am, I'm just following the assigned schedule. If there's a conflict, I can contact facilities too." Slap. Vanessa's hand struck her cheek. Hard and sharp. The sound echoed in the boardroom. Celeste stumbled back, nearly falling against her cart. "Don't you ever talk back to me," Vanessa hissed. "You are nothing here." No one said a word. No one helped. And for the first time since this began, Celeste almost broke character. She was inches away from revealing who she was, from ending Vanessa's career on the spot. But something in her held back. She swallowed the pain, lowered her eyes, and continued cleaning. Her cheek burned, but her purpose burned hotter. Because this wasn't just about exposing one toxic executive. It was about exposing a system, a culture that allowed people like Vanessa, Derek, and Harold to thrive while stepping on those beneath them. That night, Celeste didn't cry. She didn't rage. She planned. The camera inside her cart had caught everything: the slap, the silence, the smirk, and soon, the entire company would see it too. Celeste didn't sleep that weekend. She spent hours reviewing footage, cataloging dates, building her case piece by piece. But even more than evidence, she was preparing for impact, not just to remove the toxic executives, but to rebuild a company culture her father once stood proudly behind. On Sunday evening, she met with her father, Nathaniel Grayson, in his study. It was the first time they had seen each other face to face since she'd begun her undercover journey. "You look exhausted," he said quietly, concern lining his voice. "I am," she replied, "but it's more than just physical. What I've seen, what I've experienced, it changed me, Dad." Then she opened her laptop. For the next 3 hours, she walked him through everything. The recordings, the humiliation, the physical assault, the systemic silence. She played the clip of Harold dumping water on her, showed him the video of Vanessa's slap, let him hear the dismissive tone from our names, faces, times, patterns. Nathaniel listened without a word, but his clenched jaw, the slight tremor in his fingers, and the welling tears in his eyes said everything. "They've betrayed everything this company stands for," he finally said, his voice tight with pain. Celeste nodded. "The question now is, how do we fix it?" And so, they made a plan. A full board meeting was scheduled for Monday morning. Emergency, mandatory, no explanations given. Every department head, including Harold Dixon, Derek Simmons, Vanessa Lowell, and Karen Mitchell from our would be there. The board members would be briefed only on the meeting's urgency, not on Celeste's role. The goal was authenticity, raw reactions, unfiltered truth, and one final twist. Celeste would arrive still disguised as Nina the cleaner, one last act of invisibility before she made herself fully seen. Blank. Blank. Monday morning. The Grayson Dynamics Tower gleamed beneath the rising sun. On the 42nd floor, the executive boardroom was being prepped for the most important meeting in the company's history. At 8:30 a.m., Celeste arrived in her cleaner's uniform. She pushed her cart through the hallway like she had done for the past 2 weeks, calm, steady, unnoticed. By 9:45, executives had started gathering. Whispers filled the corridor. "What's this about?" "No idea, but the CEO looks serious." Inside, Celeste cleaned quietly, placing one final wipe across the conference table. That's when Harold entered, his expression sour as ever. "What are you doing in here?" he snapped. "This room needs to be perfect for the board. You've missed spots before." Celeste bowed her head slightly. "I'll double-check everything, sir." "Good. I'll be inspecting it before the meeting," he added sharply, then turned on his heel. At 10 a.m., Nathaniel Grayson entered. The boardroom fell silent. He stood at the head of the table, his presence calm but commanding. "I've called this meeting," he began, "because something is deeply broken within our company. And today, you're going to see what I've seen." Just as Harold turned to bark an order at the cleaner in the room, Celeste set her mop down. She stepped forward, slowly unwrapped her headscarf, removed her plain glasses, and unzipped the janitor uniform to reveal a sharp-tailored blazer beneath. The room gasped. Recognition rippled across the faces. The cleaner was not a cleaner. She was Celeste Grayson, and the reckoning had just begun. Gasps turned to silence. Mouths hung open. Executives who had once barely acknowledged the cleaner now stared at her, wide-eyed. Pale, stunned, Celeste Grayson stood tall, her voice calm. yet unshakably firm. "My name is Celeste Grayson," she said, looking directly at Harold Dixon, then Derek Simmons, then Vanessa Lowell, "and I am the future CEO of this company." The weight of her words fell heavy in the room. Without raising her voice, she pulled a small remote from her pocket and clicked to begin her presentation. The large screen lit up with a still image of Harold, mid-motion, pouring water over her head. The timestamp, the security angle, the unmistakable evidence. Harold's face drained of color. "That clip is taken out of context," he stammered. She was being defiant. Celeste turned to him, her voice steady. "There is no context that makes abuse acceptable." More clips followed. Derek, making her clean spotless surfaces. Ridiculing her technique. Vanessa, slapping her across the face while junior employees sat frozen in fear. Karen from Our, dismissing her complaint with a polite smile and a passive shrug. Each frame, each soundbite, was a blade of truth cutting through years of silence. The room, now eerily quiet, listened as Nathaniel Grayson stood and spoke, his voice rich with disappointment. "You didn't fail your jobs because you didn't meet numbers. You failed because you forgot the one thing this company was built on: dignity." Then came the verdict, effective immediately. Harold, Derek, Vanessa, and Karen were terminated for gross misconduct. Security, already informed, stepped in to escort them out. As Harold was led away, he turned back one last time. "I thought you were just a janitor." Celeste met his gaze, unwavering. "You never saw me at all." That was the problem. In the weeks that followed, Grayson dynamics changed, from the inside out. New leadership programs were introduced. Staff at all levels were invited to speak openly. The cleaning crew received raises and recognition. The board restructured how employee evaluations were conducted. And Celeste? She didn't return to her office as the same woman. She returned as a leader, one who had walked the halls of her own company in silence, and emerged with the voice of hundreds behind her. 6 months later, at her first all-staff town hall as CEO, she said, "Leadership isn't about how many people you can command. It's about how many people feel seen because of you." And in that moment, every janitor, receptionist, engineer, and intern knew they weren't invisible anymore.